Hey, good evening, everybody, and happy Sunday night to you. We are here at Unlock the Middle, and we are here tonight to be able to dig into some topics that are really germane to what we do in the trenches as leaders. My name is Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. Alongside of me, got my good friend and co-host to the other side of me, Chris Starcheski. Chris, how are you tonight? We also have a couple of other people in the house with us, and we have one more that's going to join us, and we're starting a little bit late tonight, but that's okay because that Patriots game took us to a different level.
That it did. Thanks, Dean. It's been a little while, I feel, since I've been on the screen with you guys. Life is getting in the way with these shows. It's kind of rough. But, hey, let's go ahead and introduce our guests at the bottom. A little bit about yourself, if you don't mind. Josh, we know you. We'll let you introduce yourself a little bit, but let's get right to Alisa Zapata. Alisa, how are you? And give us a little bit of your background.
Hi. Well, let's see. I have not been in education as long as Josh has. I've only been in education for 26 years, but I have been a middle school principal for 5 years. I just left El Paso as the assistant superintendent for elementary schools, and I have just joined the Chapel Hill Carrboro City School System as the chief academic officer. So I'm really excited to be in this new position and to learn about the great things that are happening here. But that's a little bit about me, and I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you at the round table. There's no doubt about that. So it's great to get a different flair. And again, the more people we bring in, the more different lenses we get a chance to look at things. Josh, we don't want to leave you out, brother. Why don't you say a couple of words?
Well, hello, everybody. Week one of the football season is over. So I hope you're smiling. If you're upset like I am, that's okay. There will be a week two. Hello to everybody. And just remember, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, please make sure that you join us. Share, pass this on, but also make some comments. Give us some feedback. Tell us what your opinion is, because you know what? Stronger together. That's the only way.
Absolutely. And, you know, we apologize for the delay. Normally we start at 7 o'clock, but like I said, Patriots got in the way. We had our fingers crossed. Didn't work out for us, so maybe we'll just choose to be a Tampa Bay fan and watch Tom Brady and Gronk. Nah, probably not. Okay, we won't go that route. Hey, let's get into some leadership talk as we wait for one more person to join us, and hopefully Nancy will come in pretty soon. But let's talk about our schools and what we're doing. And two things tonight we want to talk about. First one, dealing with pressure situations. And I think we all have experienced the pressure right now, opening up our schools, basically full tilt, a lot of different mindsets, let's say, but not the least that we're really concerned about is making sure children feel safe and back at school. So let's talk a little bit about some of the pressure things that we've had to work through. And Josh, why don't we start with you, and then we'll kick it around.
You know, it's those things that we never went to school that really get us. I've gone through whooping cough. I've gone through a shooting in a campus, the installment of metal detectors in the only high school in the district, a parent attacking a referee after a 1-point game in a basketball game that I had to go testify on behalf of the referee. It's pretty... parents fighting in the stands, physically, just over a game. So it's a lot of things that really we've never been trained for, and we just used our best judgment at that moment because it's surrounded by emotion. Just like, how do you deal when one of the most popular seniors dies in a car accident? And I've had to face that in one of the schools that I used to work at, and that group of kids, I carried them from freshmen to seniors, and this young man was very popular. His name was Andy Pacheco, and he died in a speeding accident, and so that was right before state testing. So the whole school took a big hit, and it's one of those things that we're not trained for. So we need to do the best thing that's in the interest to number one, lower the negativity, lower the noise that's going on around us. But I think that most recently, the things that I faced, and I think my former boss, Ms. Zapata, was a young man. There was a killing that was a drug deal that happened off off of our campus, and retaliation was going to take place. And so, in the best interest of student safety, our district decided to make sure that we installed metal detectors throughout the campus. And it's one of those situations where it was a whole PR thing, because then even the kids felt bad because they felt they were in a jail because they never had that experience. They put chain link fence all around the campus. So it's one of those things that I think we're not prepared for, and there is no textbook out there that prepares us for that, but just our experiences. And it's always making sure that we de-escalate the situation to its ultimate. Because you know what? There will always be somebody that Monday morning quarterbacks your decisions. And that goes with our chair. It doesn't matter what our chair does. Someone will always say, I would have done it like that. Well, you know what? Maybe you did not see all the pieces that were in the background, all the noise that's in the media, everything that is on social media, that there's a reason why certain steps were taken. And out of confidentiality, you know that we can't tell you. So I think that whenever you do aspire to sitting in the chair that we sit in or higher, you need to remember that there will always be critics of your decisions. There will always be people who think that they could do it better, or they could have done it better. But then when they get in the chair, they find out, you know what? It really, there's other variables that I never considered. So it's easy to have an opinion, but just remember that whenever you sit in a chair the way that we do, we see things big picture. You need to take parents into consideration, your team members into consideration, kids' feelings into consideration, public perception into consideration, and that has to be done yesterday. So I just think that it's one of those things that being an administrator, that's what drains us, sitting in the chair that we sit in. It drains us spiritually, physically, emotionally, and it's one of the things that if you do aspire to the chair, you got to remember, you got to deal with this. And the things that I just described, the majority of them happened in 1 year, to me.
Oh,
yeah, those are the challenges that we can, like you said, Josh, never be prepared for. We just have to have a process in place. Alisa, additions to that or anything you'd like to share?
Yes. So, everything that Josh said is so valuable. Sitting at the district level and being able to support, it is so true. There are so many things that go on. And so the decisions we make, we try and make in the best interest of everyone in the community. Number one, to keep people safe. Number two, to ensure that we're communicating and we're being as transparent as possible. Going through this pandemic, it has been incredibly difficult to wear so many different hats and to pivot as often as possible, or as smooth as possible. And one of the biggest things that we try and remember to do is, we are really concerned about our kids and ensuring that they have all the supports they need. But most important as well is ensuring that our schools have everything they need, not only in resources, but also in that social emotional aspect. If our employees, if our teachers, if our principals, administrators, our custodial staff, our cafeteria staff, everybody has to be on point. And just ensuring that we are very aware of all of the social aspects, the social emotional needs, and the health and well-being of our employees is just super important during this time. Because if our employees are not, and our educators are not healthy, then we're going to have a hard time with the kids. And I think this is probably one of those times that, we've had deaths, we've dealt with drive-by shootings, just in our various experiences. And this is just something that has continued on, this pandemic. It just continues on. And I think that is just something that, I work from the district level, but I can't even imagine being in the trenches and in a school on a daily basis. So from our perspective, from my perspective, from being at the district level, just ensuring that our people that are in the trenches, in the schools, that they have those resources to ensure, and that we make sure that we are being mindful of everything that we do for everyone, especially around the health and well-being of our school employees.
I'm glad you said that, especially, sorry, Chris, just from an administrative district lens, making sure that the well-being of staff members is extremely important, checking in with them, letting them know that you care about them, making sure they're balanced with their families. And we talk about that all the time. You know, from where we sit as building-based principals, I got to say, a lot of the things that you guys just said, I mean, we don't have a lot of that. I mean, have we had deaths that we've dealt with? Of course we have. And those are very difficult situations, and we have protocols in place. You know, I'm looking now, I mean, some of the biggest things that Chris and I face is just the management of emotions. And again, you've got, you know, you can put the mask scenario at the center stage. You've got people vehemently against it. You've got some that are for it. You got, and it's amazing to watch the emotional roller coaster take place. You know, when at the end of the day, you know, all we want to do is give kids the best opportunity to be back in school. And sometimes if that means wearing that mask for a short period of time, then it's not a bad price to pay to be able to have a normal school day and have parents back working again and all these things. And again, we're all at the mercy of our state level, the governor, as well as the commissioner of education. So some things are just not debatable for all of us. But I see myself as a gauge person, a temperature gauge, and I'm watching my staff and I'm making sure that they don't become like in the past, you know, ultra crispy because of things that are happening. And you've got to watch for that. And sometimes just having an empathetic ear and just listening, you know, we may not have the answer in the moment, but de-escalating and taking it down when things are going up, that's a real craft for an administrator. Chris?
Yeah, it's, you know, 100% spot on. You know, when we talk about navigating through tough times, let's just take a crisis situation, you know, things that we can't control, but we have to maintain some element of control over, right? You got to trust your team, communicate purposefully, and not make decisions without taking that moment or two of purposeful thought before making that communication. You know, if inaction doesn't mean that there's no thought that's occurring, you know, in the midst of a crisis. Like, for example, if the milk spills at the dinner table here at home, I am slower to respond because I'm thinking a little bit ahead in terms of, okay, what's the best job that I can do here? There's a crack in the middle of the table. I can go ahead and prevent the milk from getting in there so I don't have to do a lot of cleaning of sour smells later on, right? As opposed to just jumping into action and moving the milk all across the table. Silly example, but, you know, one of the most important elements to anything is to have a semblance of tabletop activity afterwards, to go ahead and debrief, to go ahead and have that communication with your team and really sit down and talk about moves that made sense, moves that could have been done differently, and responsibilities that could have shifted. So, you know, all really good information there. Hey, we got a new guest on screen here, Nancy Torres, middle school principal. How are you, Nancy?
Welcome.
I'm good. Thank you, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Our pleasure.
You're welcome. And it's my fault that I gave the wrong time zone for you. So I apologize. So we're glad you just came in, and sorry to cut your walk short. So, but we're very excited to have you here with us tonight. So why don't you say a little bit about yourself? We just got started, Nancy. So why don't you give a little background, who you are and the school you're at, and kind of your rise to power there.
Yes, thank you, Dean. Thank you for the introduction. So I am on my third year as a middle school principal. I've had the pleasure of also being an assistant principal in a large high school, which I think prepared me for my current role. I've had the great pleasure of working with Miss Alisa Zapata, that's on the call with us. I worked with her in advanced academics, and so she was my boss for a couple of years, and I think that also helped me to prepare in my future roles. And then I've also had the great pleasure of working with Josh. So thanks for the invite, Josh. It's been difficult these last couple of years. I had just started my first year as a principal, getting things going, and then COVID hits. So I'm getting ready to start this third year with a lot of energy, and I'm hoping everything works out for us.
Nancy, we threw the first question out there, and it just basically was dealing with pressure situations. So anything that comes to your mind as you just kind of navigate into this, and what are some of your thoughts about de-escalating some pressure situations from your lens?
So yes, that's a great topic. And I've been thinking that maybe the counselors play an important role, especially now in assisting with our students. I know that a lot of the testing responsibilities and other responsibilities for counselors have been removed from their plate so that they can focus and zone in on that social emotional learning. And I think that has helped us tremendously for our counselor to be 100% hands-on with our students, to take a pulse of where they're at. I keep saying that we're into 30 days and 21 days breaks a habit, and that our students should already know that they're back fully. But it's harder than what we are experiencing. But I think the counselor role has played an important part in getting our students back where they need to be. The campus team making sure that our expectations are being repetitive in our advisory class, for example, to our students, to be able to make sure that they're on the same page as the campus team. And I think our students are doing well. Like I said, it does take those 21 days to break that habit, and I think our students are doing a great job. It was very difficult at first. It was very difficult navigating through the students coming back and, behavior situations here and there. But I think we've done a great job. My team is fabulous, and I think they've done a great job. But our counselor does play a big lead in that.
Do you mean that students are beginning to act up a little bit? I can't believe that. I mean, the honeymoon is over.
Well, we are actually we are starting our 6th week. And so we have intercession coming up here in a bit. We have about 2 weeks before we go on break. Yep. I know some of you all just started, but yes, I think that our students are adjusting, and we're going to go on a break, and they're going to have to come back and readjust.
Students are adjusting. I like that. That is absolutely well said. There's no doubt. Chris, kick it back over to you.
Yeah, as we sit down and we think about all the social emotional experiences that we have to undertake as we enter back into this new sense of normal, breaking habits that were formed not by anybody's fault, but really through 18 months of disconnectedness and discontinuity with routine and structure takes a lot out of you. Yesterday we had a tremendous anniversary, as you know, of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and in educating our kids, all of which were not alive at the time, and being in my school, we are grades 5 through 8, so we're dealing with kiddos from age 10 through 14. So developmentally, sharing messages with them. Having teachers take the lead for some of these challenging conversations. How do we express an understanding of history and express the ideas of recovery? Of course, we're in a time now where we've got a great example. We're all living through a pandemic where routines are upset and everybody's in response mode. Kick it around. What are some of the elements to 9/11 that you've taken on with your kids or your faculties or staffs in the last few days, and any perspectives that you have? Let's kick it down to Alisa.
Yes. So being new in the district, just seeing some of the things that occurred last week, we had a lot of opportunities. Our students took on opportunities to perform a lot of community services, which I thought was amazing. They did a lot of remembrance of memories, and the teachers shared a lot with them. I think one thing that was was like an awareness for me moving from Texas to here is just learning about the involvement that this community had in the 9/11, and just the different the different presentations and the recognitions that went on. It was very eye-opening for me. So as I continue to learn more in this community and more about the community that I'm in, I look at it and I'm just in awe. This time I can tell you for me, during 9/11, remembering where I was at and hearing that the Pentagon had been a target. And at that time, when I heard that, I was in a vehicle with one of my bosses, and we were headed to a school. And when I heard it, I immediately picked up the phone to call my parents, because my brother worked in the Pentagon at that time. And my parents were asleep. And I was like, wake up, Dennis is there, and you got to get a hold of him. Just all those flashbacks come back to me. And thank goodness he was okay, and everything turned out. But just really listening and sharing about those memories and everything that everyone went through. So the schools here did a phenomenal job of showcasing and working with their students in all of those events. But what I really liked that I saw was the fact that the students took on and they came together, and the community service events that they provided, cleaning up the areas and doing things together. That was very heartwarming to me. So those are some of the things that we did.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Josh?
The great thing about the campus that I'm at is that it's very small. The bad thing about the campus I'm at is that it's very small. So I don't have the luxury of having a ROTC like I've had in the past. I don't have the luxury of having all those organizations around, even though the current campus that I'm at is 6 through 12. It's just, as I stated before, the current campuses are brand new kids to our country, and kids that have adversity at the traditional campuses that only go to us for 4 hours. So half of the day, this campus is pretty much a low number. So if you've noticed, the majority of my communication with our Jaguars is through morning announcements and also through social media. That's how I connect with them nonstop, because it's not only 9/11, and it's things that I remind them about through social media and the morning announcements, but it's also National Hispanic Month. It's also Suicide Prevention Week. It's all those things that we try to keep together, and they're all tied in together one way or the other. And so it's one of the things that, as someone that sits in my chair, I got to make sure that I point the light to it, and everybody remembers it. And it's one of the things that it's not, National Hispanic Month is not a month. It's ongoing. African American Month is not a month. Women Month is not a month. Suicide Prevention Week is not a week. It's a concept. It's an idea that we to engrave in the minds of our students through reminders. Hey, remember this Hispanic. Hey, remember, if you say something, see something, you're not alone. It's those things that we gotta keep on reminding our kids, just because we spotlight a month or a week on it. So all our district in Garland ISD, they do such a fabulous job also promoting it on social media. All the high schools in their tributes, just like all of us had witnessed. And we all remember in this round table where we were at, where it happened. And to me, as a father, that I sat down most of yesterday watching the History Channel with my kids and explaining to them, and I couldn't. I was still stunned. I don't know about you. When I'm looking at everything, at the people covered in soot, the people that had to make a decision and they took the decision, the actual plane, all those things, even me talking about it right now, it still hits me. It still angers me. It still saddens me. And so as a dad, I'm not a principal, but as a dad, just having those conversations with my 12-year-old, it's the same conversation I would have with my Jaguar on campus. And it's one of those things that it's more of a time-consuming thing for me. It's going to be discussing that with a kid that just came from Vietnam. a kiddo that just came from El Salvador, from Nicaragua, from parts of Africa, because their tie is they just see it on TV. So it becomes more of a variable for us at Memorial Pathway Academy. But you know what? We don't lose the sight that it's those things that as future citizens of this country, we need to embed the time ongoing to remind them so that they become better citizens of this country. So we've done through social media, we've done through morning announcements, but it's not just a day. It's embedded throughout the year that we remind them that it's this.
Taking that stretch and making sure you weave that into the fabric of that connectivity and purpose is really important. And we can use these opportunities as examples for why we need to focus on our values and keep them at the forefront, every day. Thanks. Powerful, Josh, as always. Nancy.
So as I was conducting some walkthroughs last week, midweek, I did have the opportunity to listen in on some of my social studies teachers front-loading the information in regards to 9/11. It was still really powerful to hear it, to see it, as they played the videos for the students and stopped to talk about that day. It still, touched my heart. And I had a wildcat that turned around and whispered and asked me, "Miss, where were you on that day?" And so they asked the adults, "Where were you on that day? What memory do you hold of that day?" I wasn't in education at that time. I was still working as a paralegal in the law office, and I remember clearly where I was at that time. But our students were very involved with that week, and also with writing messages of encouragement and of hope and posting them throughout the school. So my team did a great job in recognizing that day. Today I heard, or I saw a message that someone posted. I also miss 9/12. I miss 9/12. And we miss 9/12 because we were very united on that day. And so I wish, yes. And I wish that we could go back to that 9/12 where everyone was united. And we need to continue to talk to our students about empathy, talk to our students about being united. And going back to what I said earlier, breaking that habit and coming closer, I see my students doing that. Now that they're back on, now that they see their peers, now that they see their teachers, and building those relationships is extremely important, which probably building relationships would be another great topic. But I think that's key, building those relationships with the students so that we can become united.
Chris, I'm going to jump in right now because I remember vividly I was teaching 10th grade social studies in the morning. It happened. We had the small TVs in our room. I mean, I remember up at Shepherd Hill, Chris, if you can remember those TVs that are up there, they're up there for 20 years plus. But I remember being afraid to turn on the TV for the fear of just causing a bigger panic from everybody. And, it was just unreal to think that we were under attack in any capacity. Here at school, like Chris said to start off, our kids have no idea of the magnitude, really, of what it's all about. And our teachers have done a really good job of segueing in that learning and an opportunity to have understanding. And I love, Alisa, what you said earlier. The community plays a really big part in this. You just never know who that touched and, what family was involved. So when we had an opportunity, we do a great reading in the morning at 8:45 and just, talking about it and honoring, what happened. But then we play taps. We have our band leader come in and he plays taps every year. We do this, and it's you get goosebumps when that happens because it just makes it all seem so real. We have to teach kids about empathy, compassion, understanding, and we also have to be, we're all patriots too. This is America. This is our country. This is what we're all about. And, if you can stand tall together and really work through things, great things happen. So, again, I have to give a lot of credit to my teachers because they just went at it at so many different lenses. And, whether it's an art teacher drawing something, whether it's a music teacher playing music, and bringing it together, it's just, they did a really, really good job and with a very difficult subject.
Yeah, agreed. The only pieces I can add are the personal connection that I had, with the kids in terms of, sharing. We didn't do an assembly or anything like that. The individual grade levels all kind of came together and did their own types of activities. In sixth grade, go home and interview your parents. Where were they? What was it like? What were the reaction and responses? Were there any personal connections to the actual events? But I'll tell you, during my statement, about a 10-minute all-school announcement on Friday morning, approximately 8:45. Beginning going through, some of those, times and recalling them, moment of silence. About 30 seconds into the remarks, I felt myself starting to get emotional, start to lose it. And it took me quite a bit to be able to reframe and refocus. But, afterwards, the kids, the teachers, the staff, it was very powerful because, yes, complimentary towards the words, but more importantly for the kids, wow, this guy, the teachers, they're human. We actually don't live in school. We go out to the local communities. We have these connections outside, and the kids remembered that we all have these feelings. But Nancy, what you said about 9/12, absolutely spot on. This morning, or earlier today, I can't remember when, the Patriots game was devastating to my memory. But that was my Instagram post to my school community. It was, 9/12/01. We showed the world what united was. Yep. We need to show them what it is every single day. And the message to the kids, our theme at my school this year is be a better human. And on the back of the shirt that we have made up for our staff, we go through a whole bunch of different types of activities that we can be better humans through. Compassion, kindness, care, community service, connectivity. The list goes on. The more that we can do to remind our young adolescents of those pieces and how they can afford to be the change in the world, the better off we're going to be down the road. And it's less about you. It's less about me. It's all about us, and, really instilling that message.
Chris, speaking of change and helping kids be that voice for change, what kind of ideas do you guys have in regards to what that looks like within your school or district or whatnot? How can we empower kids to really be that voice to make that change, especially during times when they don't have a lot of background on it? So it's not easy. It's almost like you have to lead them to it and say, okay, this is what happened. Now, what would you have done differently? Or how do you feel as a result of the event taking place? Josh, go ahead.
I just think that being consistent with your pattern of behavior as a leader is crucial, because what do you believe in? When you look at the mirror as you're putting in the key in the ignition and you put on reverse or drive, what is going to be your constant message to your staff, to your kids when you get there? Yeah. You just get, as Principal Cafele says, you can't fake the funk. You just can't show up without a vision. And it's a daily thing that you need to remind yourself of what your purpose is there. And so, as I stated earlier, I think that it's crucial that someone that sits in my chair, that we always remind them, as Chris said, you have a theme. We all have a theme. Mine is all tied into go for the gold. And so if you follow us on social media, I tie in different objectives, different people on them meeting the goal. Whatever the goal is for that person. It's not just Olympics. It's right now I'm tying in going for the gold with National Hispanic Month. So those people went for the gold in whatever their field is. So I've gone from a Vietnam veteran Hispanic that gets a Medal of Honor to Rita Moreno to Cesar Chavez. Talk about three totally different individuals. But they went for the gold in what their field was. But it's about being better individuals. Going for the gold does not mean a prize. It means, as we said, being a better human, Chris.
Improvement.
And so when we're there, what are we bringing to the table as a leader? A leader is not a title. It is bringing a vision. No one listened to Martin Luther King and said, I like his speech. They believed his vision as an individual of, I have a dream. This is what I want for our people. And that's what we need to do whenever we do put that key in the ignition. We drive to work, and when we hit those announcements, when we hit those classrooms, when we hit those hallways, is that vision that's being impressed upon everybody within our learning community, that it's not what you believe, it's how you express it on a daily manner.
Boom. Drop the mic, Josh. You're right on. Nancy.
Wow, Josh, thanks for that reminder. Yes, you're right. Going in, we have to be ready. I think as principals, we drive up to our campus and we're always looking for that safety immediately at the beginning of each school day. Is our campus clean? Is our campus safe? Are the morning students where they need to be? But most importantly, Josh is right. Always reminding ourselves the purpose of our everyday job. I always go back to our Wildcat values, and that drives everything on our campus, our vision. And that is the Wildcat Roar, ROAR. Each letter in that acronym stands for something. And myself and my assistant principal do remind the students on a daily basis of those values and of those beliefs, and of that vision, again, so that they are reminded daily of what those expectations are.
Alisa?
So, you know, listening to both Josh and Nancy and everyone, you know, there's one thing, and Josh became so passionate, and you know, I've seen him in action. I remember when Josh first got to Socorro High School, like after the second day he was there, I was visiting his campus, and just his presence, and literally walking in the hallways and knowing that there was a difference. It's just unbelievable, his presence, and what a great leader he is, along with Nancy, growing her and watching her thrive. You know, there was a phrase that our former superintendent used to state all the time, but I took that phrase and I hold it dear, and I've started following it, or it's just what I live by now. That phrase is, you know, it is important that we treat every child as if they were our very own. Bottom line. And I'm going to tell you right now, when we are driving up to their schools, whatever work we engage in, if we're thinking about those kids, if they were our very own, we would want our kids to have the best. And so our actions, we have to ensure that our actions are doing whatever it is so that those kids can have the best. And we also have to remember, you know, when we go to school on Monday, once that school day has passed, those kids are never going to have that time back. So whatever we put in front of them, whatever experiences that we afford them, they have to be the best experiences that we can give them. And so as we move forward, just thinking about the community and the unification, everything that occurred on 9/12, we have to ensure, as we're working with our school communities, the opportunities that we give them, we must keep building unity with our students, all of our students. We cannot leave anyone left behind. And we have to remember, we've got to treat them as if they were our very own, because I know what I would want for my kids. And I'm pretty sure everyone on this call, everyone listening, they would only want the best for their kids. That's what every child deserves. So that's what I believe.
We have one shot to be a champion for every child that walks through the doors. And that's just what it comes down to. And, you know, we can teach our content, but we are nothing if we can't formulate relationships with kids first, because kids will not reach their highest level if they don't know how much you care about them. Right, Josh? Right. You said that a million times, okay? Because we are in the relationship business. There's no doubt about that. You know, the power of being at ground zero, though, I mean, I wish I could take the kids there. I wish they could see that and be part of that, because I think it's a bigger picture and a bigger understanding. But we have an obligation. We have an obligation as educators, as leaders, as schools, to be able to ensure that we are remembering, you know, everybody, first responders, people who lost their lives, you know, understanding the history on how this happened and why it happened. I think it's absolutely something that we need to make sure that we're out in front of all the time. And not just 9/11, but, you know, anything that has historical significance to it. Josh, you were saying it earlier. We have a job to make sure there's equity across everything that we do, because you never know how it's going to affect somebody. Chris?
Yeah, you know, everything's interwoven and everything's connected. It's our job to make sure that we don't put anything in a silo, and that we don't afford any kiddo an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And everybody's got to have that opportunity, the keys on their key ring to unlock doors that they don't even know they need to unlock down the road. We talked about tonight some pretty heavy topics in ways, but for me, it all comes back down to, and Nancy and Lisa, you said it, Josh alluded to it, Dean alluded to it, those core values that we hold dear and near. We just listen, you walk the walk and you talk the talk. You make sure that you're connected to your purpose and that the purpose is connected to greater action and greater opportunity for kids. The bottom line is that, we can't honor one another or our memories without acknowledging that, together down the road, those things shaped us to who we are now, and the actions that we're engaged in now are going to shape us for who we can possibly become. And Alisa, spot on. Every kid who walks through the door, they need to be like ours. I actually happen to be fortunate to have 2 of my 3 kids in my building, 1 in 5th, 1 in 8th. So I trust with great belief that whatever classroom they're in, they're getting what they need, because our faculty and staff is there to do that job, not because it's the principal's kid, but because we do what we do because we're really good at it and we're really special.
Every child, every day. There's the motto. Every child, every day.
And you know what? I just think one thing. I know we're coming close to the 40-minute mark here, and I think that with all the heavy things that we talked about today within this last 40 minutes, it's crucial that if you're aspiring to one of the chairs that we sit in or higher, that you remember how we started today's podcast by saying that you're going to make decisions that are not supported by a percentage of the public. And all it takes is one parent or one community member to attack you on a Facebook page. Yeah. And that just becomes a tsunami of professional destruction for you. And even though you did what was in the best interest that you felt at that moment for that situation, you're going to get pummeled on social media. But you know what? It is what it is. If you know that you did what's right for kids.
Thank you for saying that.
And you did the right choice at that moment for your community, for your teachers, for the kids. And you know what? You could look in the mirror, because you know what? There will always be Monday morning quarterbacks. But you cannot negate your responsibility as someone that sits in our chair. And it's a heavy burden, but you know what? It's one of the most beautiful things, because in the end, those children are looking to you and will remember your name and say, you know what? That was my principal at that school. That's right. That's all that matters, because you know what? You did through the hard times, you navigated them through the turmoil, through the blizzard, and you were there for them, and they will remember that, and you will be in their memory forever. And let me tell you, that is a priceless check that you will always have spiritually.
Yep.
And Chris, take it home. Yeah. We can't go any better than that. You're right. We're in this business because of kids. We can never, ever, ever forget that. Okay. No. We're not an adult employment agency. And I love my staff more than anything. They're great people. Yeah. But at the end of the day, every decision made is in the best interest of a child's experience at school. That's what it comes down to.
We don't do what is easy. We do what is right. Yeah. And sometimes right is really, really, really hard to do. And it's okay. We're not going to get everything right out of the box, but we're going to do what is right to ensure that we've got great opportunity. Well, hey, everybody out there, Unlock the Middle Land. On behalf of Nancy Torres, Alisa Zapata, Josh Tovar, Dean Packard, this is Chris Starcheski, principal of Dudley Middle School, co-host of Unlock the Middle, saying have a wonderful evening. We hope you all reach out to us. Check us out on replay for sure. Check out some great episodes. This is professional development for you as well as us, and we've got a great library of resources out there. Please continue to work with us and let us know if you have any ideas for shows or if you'd like to be a guest. Be well, everybody.